Okay, so welcome to my first playthrough video for Repsim. It's something that I've wanted to create since I was a kid when I was playing with replication simulators and artificial life programs like the huge mega dork that I am. But I'm proud of it, and I am super proud to have made this the version of an artificial life simulator that I've always wanted. So, number one, always look for the question mark buttons throughout the user interface. They'll help you get around. And this here, I won't read the whole thing, but it just kind of describes what you're looking at and what's going on so you can kind of get prepared for your first playthrough. It reminds you always look for the question mark icons. This next one will be in the gear menu once you're inside the sim. And then it says, hey, click on the slider titles for more info. It's signed by Mo Debatiku. So the slider titles are right here. So if you're looking at this and you're confused, you can click on the slider titles and they'll give you some more info as to what the sliders do and change. You can also look at segment options and info, and that gives you more information about what each segment does. And you're probably wondering, what are the segments? You'll see once we get into the tank. So it's best not to mess with these your first time through. Just leave them at default values, and when you get more acquainted with the app, you can come back and play with them. But for now, it's best to probably just leave the default settings as they are. I tried to make some interesting settings. And then push start. The tank will gear up. And then you have a tank full of 20 randomly generated replicators. You can click and drag them to throw them around. They light up when they're selected. There's the gear menu on the bottom right with the question mark, the learning menu that I mentioned. You have a cheat sheet, a tutorial, controls. Let's look at that. So you can see the mouse controls for rotating the tank. There's a right click and drag, selecting, zooming, and then there are iPad controls also. And I like the iPad experience a little bit better. But there are also hotkeys, so you can skip and reverse music, also activate tools. You can play with that more at your leisure. Then there's the cheat sheet. This is just a lot of the info that you saw previously, but you can access it here while you're inside the tank in case you need a refresher. You can also check out thoughts and musings. That's kind of my letter that I wrote to users, just talking about why I made the app. Then there's the tutorial. This is a step-by-step walkthrough of everything you're looking at and what's going on. Some people get a lot of help from these, so I thought I'd give you this information in lots of different ways to try to hit everybody. So we can try our controls, right click and drag left and right to rotate. You can also use the scroll wheel or touchpad scroll to scroll in and out. Let's see, you can tap an arrow key or 4 fingers on an iPad to do auto rotate. But on a computer, if you move your mouse, the auto rotate cancels. You can see the tank info panel here. Reminds you of what your settings were when you started the tank, and it shows you how many reps are in the tank. Then there's the virus panel as well. If the virus is active with that tick box, then the virus will count down once the tank is full. If the tank is full, then the virus starts counting down for 30 seconds, and then it will infect a random replicator. There's the rep info panel on the top right. When you select a rep, it gives you their name, and it shows where their health reserve and replication readiness currently are. And you can select different reps, see their names, number of children they've had, what generation they are. All of the, well, most of the current reps now will be generation 0, which is the original randomly generated ones. You can see Ba TT here is this one's name. Its root health reserve is full. Oh, it just died. So we could select another one. It has the same name. It's also red, green, green. Its name is Ba TT. Yeah. So you can watch as the replication readiness meter increases on the panel, and then boom, it has a child. And because it has no purple piece, that means it asexually reproduced. It cloned itself with, it looks like a minor mutation. It looks like one of the segments rotated a little bit. So you can see we can take a BA-TT and save it, and you have one more save slot below that, and we're looking at those on the right. We can find a rep that we think is interesting there and save it also. And then what we can do is we can start a new tank and populate it with just those that we saved to see how they do competing with each other or on their own. So we'll start a tank with 1, because you have to have 1 at least to start a tank. And we can kill it off once we've spawned the ones that we saved. So we'll take our kill tool and kill the one that came with the tank. Turn off the kill tool. And now we can watch what happens with these two. And what's also cool is you could run this tank the way it is, right? And see how they do. Oh, and we're using the feed tool also, so that can help reps to reproduce more quickly and start populating a tank. But what you could do is start a tank and see how these reps do with the settings here, and then start a new tank with the same starting reps but different settings and see how they do in the new environment. You can see also there are 3 shapes that you can spawn into the tank, and you can throw them around there. And then we've got the show and hide user interface button. That's the eyeball over there. We've got music controls also. Each song is meant to loop endlessly. Each song is meant to be a vibe, so you can skip to a new vibe if you want to. There's also a game play pause button in the cog menu on the right as well. So if we unhide, then the tools come back. You can see that we could leave the unhide on, but just hide each panel individually to keep the tools in the view, but hide the panels. So there's a couple different ways to play with the user interface. I'm drinking tea, and that's incredible. It's hojicha, so I'm very cool. No, I'm not. So we're going to auto-rotate, and we're just going to look and watch these 2 different species as they propagate and compete with each other. And you can see actually there's been a mutation over here with the BA-TT species, the red, green, green species. There's a purple, green, green, which would be Ku-TT. For each segment, based on the settings that we started the tank with, for every single segment of a rep as it's created, there's a 1 in 100 chance that it will either be a different color, different rotation, or different color and rotation. And in this case, we had one of the colors switch to purple. And that means it will need to bump into another rep in order to replicate, or reproduce in this case. Let's see. So you can see also that the BA-TT species is obviously replicating or reproducing itself a lot faster than the others. And that's because, and there's another Ku-TT that showed up. And that's actually another mutation because the purple, green, green, the original one, hadn't bumped into another. So just random chance, there was one that showed up just like it. Anyway, what I was saying is, and we'll turn the virus on here so that next time the tank is full, we'll have a virus outbreak. But you can see that the red, green, green BA-TT are doing way better than the other ones. And that's because they have 2 green segments producing energy. The other ones have 1 green segment, but they also have a yellow segment that's consuming energy. So they're producing less and they're consuming energy. And that makes it so that it takes longer for the reproduction meters to fill. And so the other ones are going to get in the reproduction, they're going to reproduce more quickly, and if the tank is full, they're going to get in the reproduction queue before the other ones do. So they're already crowding them out just because they're more efficient with their energy or health point production. Are we feeling dorky? So I certainly am. So you'll see here the tank is almost full and the virus is active. On the virus panel on the left there, you can see there's a tiny red dot on the edge of the panel. And that's so when the panel is collapsed, you'll know that the virus is active. And then when the virus is counting down, that red light will blink saying, hey, the virus is on the way. So there it goes. Virus is counting down and the red light is blinking. And what you're going to see here is because the replicators that are in this tank are so small, the outbreaks aren't going to really spread very much because they're, first off, when a replicator is infected, its pieces turn black and then explode outwards. And if they touch any other rep, it infects them and then they explode. So it cascades, like we see here. But there was nobody nearby for those pieces to hit, and that was it. So it burnt out. So we're gonna let it count up again, and we're gonna watch it, and maybe we'll try to help it along. You can grab and throw the infected segments. So we're almost there. The tank really fills up quickly. There's an exponential fill rate. And so we're almost there. Okay, outbreak. There's one. We're going to grab a piece and toss it so we can try to bump. There we go. We hit some other pieces. So you can see they explode out. They hit other pieces, but still, because the reps are so small and there's so much space between them, the infection doesn't carry very far. So let's try a new tank and really like fill it so you can see the full effect of the virus. So we're going to crank the replicator limit and the starting replicators. Just start. Oh, actually, let's just randomly change these. We're going to make yellow move more quickly, blue hold more reserves, green produce more energy, red has less impact, and purple means we decrease the cost of sexual reproduction, so that'll be easier. All right, so we've got 100 randomly generated replicators. We're going to turn the virus on. And a lot of these replicators are just not going to be viable because they're randomly generated. So there may be pieces that, okay, so there's like an all blue replicator up top. It has no way to generate health points. There's no green segments or red segments. So it's just going to time out. Every replicator has a random old age limit where it will just die if it's not killed before then. So we can see that the tank is already full. That was super quick. And now the little red light is blinking on the virus panel. So that means the virus is counting down. And unlike the last tank, each replicator in this one tends to have a lot more segments. So when there's an infection, it's gonna explode, and you'll see it more clearly. So we're almost there. There we go. It's starting. You see it in the back and on the left corner. And it's just going to run through the whole population and leave just a few to repopulate the tank. There you go. The virus pieces will die off. Sometimes there are pieces that persist and they are still infectious, so the virus can rear its head again before there's even a countdown if one of those pieces bumps into a replicator. And you'll see here there are different species already. There are a couple blue, green, yellow pieces, and then in the back corner there's some, what is that, green, blue, red, blue. So from this point, it's really interesting to watch as these different species will repopulate the tank, and you'll see the clear differences, and they'll be competing for space. Let's see. You may also notice sometimes, like there may be a replicator that has no yellow pieces, but is still spinning and moving on its own. And that's because it has overlapping pieces. They're trying to pull themselves apart, and they're struggling, but they can't. And that will generate movement, and it'll start spinning in place. So they get free movement in that case. So you can already see the tank filling up fairly quickly. Oh, and sometimes you'll see a replicator fly in from the side or from the bottom or the top. And that's because when it was born out of bounds just a little bit, so it's being pushed gently back into the tank. Let's see. So we can zoom in with the arrow keys and zoom back out as well. And we're just waiting for the tank to fill so we can watch the virus propagate one more time. I'm trying to think of other things that you might notice that I should explain here. I wish I had a live audience I could answer questions. Maybe I should do that. Alright, so we're almost full. The tank fills pretty quickly. Alright, virus is counting down. And you can see the tank is full. Most of them are smaller. So when we first started the tank, they were much larger, but the ones that survived tend to be smaller because they evade the exploding black segments. Here we go. Virus is going nuts. And sometimes it's cool to watch what evolves without the virus being active in the tank and just see what forms emerge as they just compete without interference. And by forms I mean like, shapes of replicators. But anyway, that's pretty much the gist. You can start new tanks and do new experiments and fiddle with settings and just see what evolves. You can let this run for hours. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hope to see what you get with it.